Welcome, and you've stumbled upon unexplained creature encounters. And in this episode, we'll be discussing 3 different cryptids. Number 1, the Ninjin of the Japanese waters. Number 2, the Baramanu from Pakistan. And number 3, the Tasselworm. First things first, a little bit of housekeeping. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, consider doing it now. And if you haven't liked any of our videos, consider doing it because it helps our videos get to the top of the list where you're searching and helps us get our videos out there and just pretty much helps the channel all the way around. And I would appreciate that. Thank you. But back to the story. So, the first cryptid that we're going to be talking about is the Ninjin. The Ninjin is characterized as a whale-like monster with human-like physical features. The creature has a face, and according to some tales, it has roughly 20 to 30 meter long arms, hands, or limbs. This creature is supposed to have a light blue coloring. The creature has either little or enormous gaping eyes and a large slit-like mouth. The first mention of the Ninjin appeared in a forum post from 2012 on the Japanese discussion forum website 2channel, which asserts that the crew of a whale research ship saw the monster surface close to their vessel off the Antarctic coast. The crew went to take a closer look because they initially believed it to be a submarine, but the submarine disappeared into the seas. Google Earth captured what many thought to be a Ninjin in the Southern Ocean area in 2005. Several doubters think the Ninjin was just an iceberg that happened to resemble a sea monster. An ocean life film that was put on YouTube in 2010 by a Japanese chemical research business, a big animal with small eyes and wide grinning mouth may be seen lying on the ocean floor at the end of the movie. Some claim that the sighting is most likely a snaggle-toothed snake eel, even though most people believe it to be the notorious Ninjin. An unknown user posted an underwater video in the 2010s showing what appeared to be the Ninjin, a huge humanoid marine creature. Another clip of the Ninjin kind of looks like a manatee of some sort. At least that's what others have said. You can be the judge of this clip. Next we have the Baramanu. According to legend, a bipedal humanoid primate called the Baramanu lives in the mountainous region of northern Pakistan. Mountains-dwelling shepherds have reported seeing them. The Bigfoot of Pakistan is known as the Baramanu, or Baramanu. Originally from Kowar, the word Baramanu is now used in several Pakistani dialects, including Kashmiri, Urdu, Shina, and Pashto. There are a few regional variations on the name Baramanu as well. The Kitral and Karakoram ranges, located between the Pamirs and the Himalaya, are included in the Baramanu's proposed range. The Almas of Central Asia and the Yeti of the Himalayas, 2 more well-known cryptids, are located between the ranges of the Baramanu. The Baramanu is known for kidnapping women and attempting to mate with them. It is said to have both human and ape-like characteristics. Additionally, it is said to cover its head with black animal skins. According to the source of the stories, the Baramanu is either described as an ape or a wild man in the folklore of Pakistan's northern regions. Jordi Mangriner A Spanish zoologist who used to live in France conducted the first search for a bipedal humanoid man in Pakistan between 1987 and 1990. Les Hominides Reliques del Isil Central is the paper he wrote on the Pakistani cryptid known as the Wild Man. Later in the 1990s, he conducted extensive research on the Baramanu before being assassinated in Afghanistan in 2002. In a letter to Lauren Coleman, he said, "More than 50 first-hand sightings reports were gathered, and every single witness confirmed that the reconstruction was of Helluvaman's Homo pongoidus, or an ape-like man, a living Neanderthal. From Mangraner's identification kit, which included illustrations of apes, fossil men, indigenous peoples, monkeys, and the Minnesota Iceman, they chose Homo pongoides as their match to Baramanu." Here's a more in-depth report. In Pakistan's Peshawar, according to the police, the family of a Spanish researcher who was killed and buried in the Chitral 2 years ago returned home empty-handed this week after failing to persuade local elders to allow them to exhume his body. The body of Jordi Mangraner, a researcher who spent more than 10 years in the Chitral region, looking into reports of an alleged Yeti-like creature locally referred to as Iceman, was discovered slain in his cottage in 2002. The 35-year-old was interred by the local Kalesh tribe in accordance with their customary funeral rites. Mangraner's siblings came to Qatar from Spain earlier this month to receive his body, but Kalesh elders refused to allow exhumation because it went against their religious principles. Before Mangraner's death in Shishiku Valley, Chitral, in May 1994, the cryptozoologist Mangraner and Malassand and other associated claimed to have once heard strange guttural noises in the late hours of the night could only have come from a prehistoric voice box. No more development was possible. And finally, the Tasselworm. Description. Reports of this creature have been described as anything from a small Asian dragon to a serpentine reptile or amphibian, a feline chimera, and more. The most typical description of a lizard or snake-like creature with a cat-like face, 2 front legs without hind legs, and a completely scaled body. The Tasselworm is thought to be extremely venomous, capable of instantly killing a human with a bite, breathing poisonous fumes, and even having acid blood. 2 of these creatures appeared in front of Hans Fuchs in 1779, marking the first known encounter with the Tasselworm. Hans was so horrified by his encounter that he had a fatal heart attack, but he was still able to tell his family about it before he passed away. He described the creature as being between 5 and 7 feet long, with a snake-like body, clawed front legs, and a large feline-like head with pointed teeth. When a peasant managed to bring the Tasselworm carcass home in 1828, crows had already eaten half of the animal, according to the legend. Nevertheless, the Tasselworm amassed a sizable fan base of adherents and was even taken as gospel in the 19th century. Gospel, yes. There are 2 other known depictions of the Tasselworm, the first of which was found in New Pocket Guild of the year 1836 for nature, forest, and hunting enthusiasts, a hunting manual published in Bavaria. This manual features what Bernard Heuvelmans calls a curious image of a scaly cigar with intimidating teeth and pitiful little foot stumps. The second of these drawings, which depicted a long, scaly creature with two tiny front legs, was published in 1841 edition of the Swiss Almanac Alpenrosen. A Tasselworm was said to have been captured on camera by a Swiss photographer by the name of Balken in the late 1954. The results of this winter expedition were disappointing, and interest in the creature all but vanished. Nevertheless, the company decided to sponsor an expedition in search of the Tasselworm. Many cryptozoologists today believe that Balken's photograph is most certainly fake. The discovery of the Tasselworm skeleton, which was purported to have been mysteriously donated to the Geneva Institute of Science at some point in the 1900s, is another piece of evidence that is now thought to be a hoax. The only image of the skeleton is a long snake-like creature with two clawed arms and a larger than normal head. The skeleton's donor and whether it was ever donated to anyone are unknown. Most researchers believe the photograph and the story behind it to be a hoax. There were numerous other versions of the Tasselworm legend. The first story concerns a young child who was employed on a farm in Switzerland. She was attacked after accidentally disturbing a Tasselworm's burrow while cutting down bean poles. According to this account, the Tasselworm had a gray coloration, was roughly the size of a domestic cat, had fleshy, hairless body, and only had two front legs. The Tasselworm, so the tale goes, glared at the girl, who fled after saying this big, bright eyes were too intense to meet. Scary. Another tale described a father and son who were out in the mountains gathering herbs when the father heard his son scream and stood there, frozen in fear, staring at a rock. The man ran after his son, only to discover a gruesome monster nearby that hissed like a snake, had a cat-like face, had large, bright eyes. The man was able to easily pierce the flesh of the Tasselworm with a sharpened stick. The man's leg was burned by the creature's green blood, according to the legend, making the trip home difficult and painful because of his limp. Caspar Arnold observed a Tasselworm on the Spielberg, close to Hochfilzen, Tyrol, Austria. In July 1883 or 1884, he spent 20 minutes observing it from a mountain restaurant and was certain that it had only had two legs. In the summer of 1921, a two-legged Tasselworm jumped 9 feet towards two witnesses close to Rares, Salzburg, Austria. It was gray, between 3 and 5 feet long, and had a cat-like head. The 5-foot-long skeleton is said to have been discovered in 1924 by two men who claimed it looked like a lizard skeleton. A Swiss photographer by the name of Balken claimed to have captured the Tasselworm near Meiringen, Switzerland in 1934. But it's likely that his image was a fake ceramic fish. In the Alps close to Domodossola, Italy, two naturalists discovered the skeleton of an animal resembling a lizard in 1990. In October 1991 and September 1992, Giuseppe Costale observed a gray-crested reptile moving in a zigzag pattern on Piso Coronia in the same region. A supposed photograph of the enigmatic creature from the 1960s surfaced. A newspaper in Geneva received this from an unidentified source. Most scientists and cryptozoologists who have seen the image agree that it was most likely staged by the mayor of a Bavarian town to draw tourists. In conclusion, what do you think? What do you think these creatures are? Where do they come from? What are some of the legends that they come from? Do they have some truth in them? In the end, it's up to you to decide. And remember, They're out there.